He was just a dad eating pancakes with his family until 3 cops stormed in and treated them like criminals. Is there a problem, officer? Jameson Carter asked calmly, but the tension in his shoulders said otherwise. The officer didn't answer, he just stared. His partner stood nearby, one hand resting too comfortably on the grip of his holstered weapon. It was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday. Jameson, his wife Alicia, and their 2 kids, 10-year-old Zion and 8-year-old Ava, had come to Marley's Diner, a local joint known for its chicken fried steak and cherry pie. They'd been there maybe 20 minutes. The kids were laughing. Alicia was teasing him about his terrible habit of drowning his pancakes in syrup, and Jameson was relaxed. But then the cops showed up, 2 of them, and everything shifted, sir. We received a call about a suspicious group in the diner. Suspicious group? Jameson raised an eyebrow. You mean my family? The officer's jaw tightened. Someone called and said a man, matching your description, was acting aggressively, possibly armed. Alicia's fork clattered onto her plate. That's ridiculous. We just got here. But the officers weren't listening. One reached toward Jameson's side. Lift your shirt. Zion's smile vanished. Ava ducked her head under the table. Jameson's military instincts surged to the surface, but he forced himself to stay composed. You're not in Kandahar, you're in Georgia. You're a father right now, not a SEAL. He lifted his shirt slowly. Nothing but a belt and the waistband of his jeans. No weapon, he said flatly. Maybe next time check before you pull this nonsense in front of children. The younger officer looked nervous now. The older one didn't back down. Sir, he said, voice edged with authority, I'm going to need to see ID. Jameson reached for his wallet. Slowly, the officer barked. Jameson froze. You want me to move slow, or you want my ID? Make up your mind. Alicia stepped between them, shielding her kids. We've done nothing wrong. You're scaring our children. The cop glanced at the diner staff, then back at Jameson. This could have gone differently if you hadn't had an attitude. Jameson chuckled darkly, pulled out his ID and held it out. Military on one side, federal clearance on the other. The officer leaned in and read. Greater than Jameson R. Carter, Senior Chief Petty Officer, U.S. Navy SEALs Department of Defense clearance. Active, his eyes flicked to Jameson's face, then down to the medals engraved on his Navy ID, Silver Star, Purple Heart. The officer's mouth opened slightly, then shut. A waitress nearby whispered to another server. Is that the guy who saved the kid in that Syria op last year? The air grew thick. Silence stretched long and uncomfortable. Jameson took his ID back. Now you see me. Still want to finish this in front of my family? The officers didn't answer. Alicia finally spoke, her voice cutting. What made us suspicious? That we're black and sitting quietly in a diner? Or that we look too confident for your comfort? Zion, now watching, asked softly, Dad, what's a Navy SEAL? Jameson knelt, looked his son in the eye. It means I fought for this country. It means I protect people, even the ones who forget what justice looks like. The cops turned and left. But the silence they left behind, it stayed. And Jameson knew this wasn't over, because some battles don't end overseas. They start right here at a breakfast table. Want to know what happened when the police chief heard what his officers did? Subscribe now and stay with us, because part 2 reveals what happened when Jameson Carter decided to make a few calls. Sir, step away from the table now. Those words sliced through the chatter of the diner like a blade. Heads turned, forks froze midair. Across the room, silence followed as 4 uniformed officers stormed toward the Williams family's booth. Tasha instinctively pulled their youngest, Ava, close. Marcus gently pushed his plate forward and stood slowly, eyes scanning each officer's face, not with panic, but with precision. His posture was calm, calculated. Decades of training in chaotic war zones made this moment feel oddly familiar. What's the issue, officer? Marcus asked, voice steady, hands visible. The lead cop, Sergeant Rourke, Badger for 19, sneered. We got a call. Some patrons felt unsafe, said you were acting aggressive. Marcus blinked. I was eating pancakes with my family. You raising your voice to the waitress earlier. Another officer snapped, hand hovering near his holster. Marcus kept his voice level. I asked if the order was delayed. I didn't even stand up. The diners watched with subtle nods and quiet phone cameras. They knew what they were seeing. A calm black man, a loud accusation, and a rapidly escalating situation. Rourke motioned again. We'll need you to come outside. You can explain it all down at the station. Am I under arrest? No. You're being detained for questioning. That's not how detainment works, Marcus said. I know the law. Rourke stepped forward, towering now. And what are you, some kind of lawyer? No, Marcus replied, eyes narrowing. I'm Chief Petty Officer Marcus Williams, United States Navy SEAL, retired. The room shifted. Rourke faltered for a split second, but pride wouldn't let him back down. SEAL or not, you're causing a scene. The cook, a burly white man named Glenn, came out from the kitchen. He's been in here before, never raised a voice. That table's been peaceful. Y'all should double-check that call. But the officers weren't listening. One moved behind Marcus. Tasha rose, voice shaking but firm. Please don't touch my husband. Ma'am, sit down. An officer barked, And just like that, Ava started crying. Marcus's hand instinctively twitched, his muscle memory screaming to disarm, to neutralize, but he fought the reflex. "You're scaring my daughter," he said tightly. "You're turning breakfast into a battlefield." A third officer, now female, leaned into her radio. "Dispatch, can we get confirmation on the name Marcus Williams, Navy SEAL?" Over moments passed. The response came back, 10-4. Marcus D. Williams, retired SEAL, Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 8 deployments. No criminal record. It was like a pin had dropped in the room. Rourke stiffened. "Even SEALs have to follow orders." "I have followed orders all my life," Marcus said, stepping forward now, voice deeper but not blind ones. "Not unlawful ones, and not when my family's being treated like suspects for ordering breakfast." The tension was now unbearable. Then an older woman from the back of the diner, white, mid-60s, stood up. "He was just helping his daughter cut her pancakes. That's what y'all call aggressive now." More murmurs of agreement rippled across the room. A teen pulled out his phone and yelled, "This going viral, man. You're harassing a war hero." The officers' faces dropped. Rourke looked at his men. Their authority had evaporated. "I want your badge numbers," Marcus said finally, calm but chilling. "All 4 of you now." Nobody moved. Tasha stood beside her husband. "I recorded the whole thing." Suddenly the authority returned, not to the cops but to the family. The room had taken a side. The officers backed off slowly. Rourke gave a stiff nod. "We'll follow up with the caller. You folks enjoy your breakfast." Marcus didn't move until they left the diner. When they were gone, the room broke into applause, and Marcus, for the first time since standing up, finally sat back down, body calm, but mind burning. He looked across the table at Tasha, then kissed Ava on the forehead. "Same country I fought for," he muttered, "but it's still a battlefield for us." A hush fell over the diner. All eyes were on Darius King, the man who now stood between his trembling wife, frightened son, and 3 officers whose bravado had suddenly dissolved into guilt and discomfort. Officer Barnes cleared his throat, voice suddenly cautious. "Sir, we had no idea." Darius raised a hand slowly. Not in violence but command. "You didn't need to know who I was," he said, voice low but steady. "You needed to know that we're people. That my son didn't deserve to cry into his mother's arms while you flexed your badges. You humiliated my wife, a former trauma nurse. For what? Coffee and skin color." One of the bystanders, a teenage girl who had been filming the entire incident, whispered, "He's right." The footage was already spreading online, hashtags popping up within minutes. #SealDad, #Diner Disgrace, #Respect is Neddy Nordbeerens. Turned to the diner's owner. "This is your business. These are your customers. You stood by and watched." The owner, a red-faced man named Pete Hargrove, stammered. I didn't know it would go that far." "But you knew enough to say nothing," Darius said, "and silence is always a choice." He took his wife's hand. She was shaking but proud. Then he looked down at his son. "You okay, Malik?" Malik nodded. "Yeah, Dad, I'm okay now." The 3 of them walked out together, not in retreat, but in quiet power. Moments later, the officers were called off duty. An internal review began, and the video, it went viral in less than 2 hours. Not because Darius King was a SEAL, but because dignity finally stood its ground. Would you have stayed silent or stood up? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe for more powerful stories like this, where truth, family, and justice always rise.